fog. It's left at least half a dozen people seriously injured, some 200 suffering minor wounds in what witnesses have been describing as, quote, carnage. No one believed to have died in the crash on the new Sheppy crossing bridge in Kent. Pile-up starting at around about 7:15 this morning and persisting for some 5 or 10 minutes, according to eyewitnesses, as cars, lorries and car transporters from the Medway ports slammed into each other in the poor visibility down to some 20 metres or thereabouts, according to some of those eyewitnesses caught up in the crash. Reports some motorists were driving much too quickly, like idiots, as more than one eyewitness have coined the phrase. In the conditions before the crash, it completely closed the A249 that goes over the bridge. Seen now buckled cars and vans, lorries, car transporters, people waiting at the side of the road for help and assistance. Nowhere to go at this stage, no hard shoulder beyond that at the side of the bridge, which in a sense, I think we can all agree has stood the test. The destructive forces visited upon it rather well. Nobody ending up over the side, as I suppose could potentially have happened as well. So structurally, its integrity has been maintained, and also some of those vehicles which were in a pretty bad shape. Half a dozen serious injuries, some 200 minor wounds, many people walking wounded. 7:15 this morning, London-bound carriageway, people used to, according to one eyewitness, fog, but only in the lower reaches of this area. And as they climb up the bridge, it normally falls away. This morning that didn't happen, and people were simply driving too quickly for the conditions. One witness reported how he stopped at the head of the pile-up and then listened powerlessly for the next 5 to 10 minutes, listening to the succession of impacts which followed. Fog this morning from around about 4 a.m. through till something like 8:30 this morning, according to one meteorological source. We're talking to Nazanin Gaffer, our weather presenter, very shortly about what the weather was like this morning. Clearly it's burned off now. It's a beautiful early September Indian summer's day, really. But in the morning rush hour this morning, the visibility was down to 20 yards, according to one eyewitness, as people were driving it up to, well, pick a speed, high speed, in the outside lane of this dual carriageway. Naz, it was foggy this morning.
It certainly was. We can take a look at a graphic this morning which actually shows us the visibility of what it was like for this morning. We can see that it's, well, once it finally does come up, the graphic, we will see the visibility, but it will be, as you can see here, this morning at 7 a.m, it is measured in kilometres, and it's around the area, it is 0.1, which is below 100 metres of visibility nearby where the incident happened. And the reason that we had so much fog is because we had the most perfect conditions for it overnight. Light winds, moisture in the air, that condenses, and therefore mist and fog patches are formed by the early hours of the morning, reducing the visibility, especially across the eastern parts of England.
And in terms of, I mean, we're into autumn, sort of, now, aren't we? I mean, we would expect conditions like this, you know, you get lots of fog in autumn, don't you?
Yeah, to be fair, it's nothing unusual, and the reason why it's taken so long to clear is because the winds are so light. But not even that, the strength of the sun is not what it was a month ago in the middle of summer, so it's not going to burn away so quickly, so it is lingering for some time. But it is much clearer now. We can see by the pictures, plenty of sunshine. It has pretty much virtually cleared away, so it is much better visibility, but obviously a little too late.
Yeah, okay. Yes, thanks very much indeed. I'm sure there'll be officials at the Department of Transport and indeed at Kent Police this morning shaking their heads in some disbelief, but also rather thinking, I imagine, that as one eyewitness said to us a little earlier on, this was an accident waiting to happen. Well, the waiting's over, sad to say. It's a serious accident indeed, but one which tells a cautionary tale for many people on the roads, on the high-speed roads, if I can describe them thus, of the UK. That when the conditions are inappropriate, when the fog descends or simply doesn't lift, as Naz was saying there, and people do have journey times which they expect to be met They can't always do that. They've got to drive according to the conditions. That's the mantra-like message we hear from road safety officials, and it does appear, according to eyewitnesses, that people simply did not slow down. Some people didn't have their headlights on, certainly not fog lights, and the result, all too clear to see, 100 cars and other vehicles, some of them car transporters and lorries, car transporters from the Medway ports. And it's interesting as well, you can see there how there was a bunching effect, so it wasn't just the case that everybody at the front of the queue was involved in a smash. There were smashes at the head of the queue, then further back people managed to slam the brakes on in time, and then behind them there were subsequent crashes. So there were people sandwiched amidst the vehicles which had collided who had no impacts at all. They were able to drive reasonably safely to a stop. These earlier pictures showing some of the on-site triaging that was going on by paramedics at the scene, and also people being briefed by road traffic officers just explaining, we imagine, how to proceed safely away from this dual carriageway. Those shots were from about an hour ago, where the fog was still, as you see, low cloud almost, the fog still sweeping thinly across that area. It's completely burned off now, but just a taster of what the conditions were like meteorologically. Those pictures a little later on, the fog's completely gone. 10 minutes ago, I'm told, showing some of that carriageway most affected. Claire Fallon's been listening to some of your emails coming into us and eyewitness reports too. Claire?
Yeah, many people have been telling us